Good to be with you. I'm Tony DeCopel. The breaking news right now. Another winter storm on the way. When and where it will hit, and the dangerous cold snap that just won't quit. Millions under cold weather alerts tonight. Wind chills could reach 20 below. Rob Marciano will have it all. Also developing tonight, the attack on Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, sprayed by a man with a syringe. What we know about the suspect and the reaction from the White House tonight. Also, President Trump promotes the new so-called Trump accounts for kids.
We're giving them ownership of America's future.
The U.S. government will kick in the first $1,000. Who else can contribute and how much? Kelly O'Grady tonight on what you need to know.
I'm not a scientist.
I will move on to Cincinnati.
TEAM as in team.
And the Hall of Fame mystery, outrage and confusion as former Patriots coach Bill Belichick is snubbed by the NFL Hall of Fame. Someone, anyone, explain it to me.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Tony DeCopel.
And it's great to be with you. There is good news on the economy tonight as the Federal Reserve says the data continues to surprise them. We'll have more on that in a moment. But first, hundreds of thousands in the South are still without power, and that's where we begin. Crews are racing at this hour to repair the damage after that massive weekend storm, now blamed for at least 41 deaths, and another storm is coming this weekend. Rob Marciano with the forecast in just a moment, but for now, the deep freeze continues, and we have our team out there on it, beginning with Katie Weiss in Oxford, Mississippi. Katie, good evening.
Good evening, Tony. It's like an icy tornado ripped through this city. Thousands of people here in Oxford are now on day 4 with no power and no running water. And with more freezing temperatures expected this weekend, the city's mayor says it's only going to get worse. Workers from the Tennessee Valley Authority are using helicopters and drones to help restore power to areas cut off by snow and ice. FEMA and the National Guard are on the ground in Mississippi helping with the recovery. A sign of relief for middle school teacher Jerica Pryor, who has been living without power for 4 days now. What have you been dealing with over the last few days?
No water, no heat, lights, freezing temperatures.
Pryor told us during the day she sits inside her car to keep warm, and at night she sparingly uses a space heater. She told us she ran out of food a few days ago and is living off snack food.
Poor diet, but that's what I've had to do.
We're giving it all we've got every day to try to get everybody's services restored. It literally looks like a tornado has gone down every street in our community, and it's been devastating.
Tom Hansen is in New York City with more on the problems all this ice is creating there.
Well, take a look behind me. Chunks of the Hudson River appear to pretty much be frozen over. And believe it or not, the temperature in that frigid water is actually warmer than the air temperature is outside.
In the Northeast, the effects of the storm are still apparent. Some D.C. area schools will remain closed tomorrow, and icy roads caused this semi to overturn in Indianapolis. But in the coldest months of the year, activity aboard Coast Guard icebreakers heats up.
So that's where we're headed.
Yep, that's where we're headed today.
We rode along on the 65-foot Hauser, breaking apart massive ice sheets covering one of America's busiest waterways. The dense ice floe halting travel for thousands of commuters who rely on the city's ferries.
It's really moving. What kind of danger does that present for the boats that have to go through this area?
It definitely creates a great danger for the boats with getting stuck in the ice or getting set into an area that you really don't feel comfortable being in.
And Tony, we witnessed 3 boats being freed up by the U.S. Coast Guard. You know, these big chunks of ice come from further up north where there's another fleet of icebreakers who are clearing the path for essential heating oil to be delivered. Tony?
All right, Tom, thank you very much. CBS meteorologist Rob Marciano is tracking a new weather threat tonight. Rob?
Hey, Tony. Well, the cold is pretty widespread. I want to start with this. All 50 states this morning were below the freezing mark, including Hawaii, California, where you probably set a record on Friday. But obviously the cold is really east of the Rockies, and that's where we're going to see a reinforcing shot coming in. I can't believe we're saying this. Coming in on Saturday and Sunday morning, we'll see record lows from Cleveland to Philly, down to Jackson, Mississippi, where they're still dealing with ice in the northern part of that state. And then the coldest we've seen since 2010 across parts of Florida. I think we'll see dozens of record record set come Saturday and Sunday morning. And here comes that coastal low we've been talking about all week long. We expect it to develop along the Carolinas. We'll see some snow across the Carolinas and the Mid-Atlantic. That's very confident. But what the track does after that, we're a little bit unsure. The closer it gets to New England, the more snow we will get, or it may stay completely off the coast, but should be a high-impact event across the Mid-Atlantic. Tony?
All right, Rob, thank you very much. To Minnesota now, where federal officials are changing the story again after Saturday's deadly shooting of Alex Preddy. CBS News has confirmed that the federal agents who shot Preddy are on administrative leave, not, as the Trump administration initially said, on duty in other cities. Meanwhile, the situation on the ground in Minneapolis remains volatile after an attack on Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Our chief correspondent, Matt Gutman, has late details.
That terrifying moment overnight in Minneapolis as Representative Ilhan Omar in a town hall called for the ouster of federal forces from Minnesota.
And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
A man suddenly lunged toward Omar and squirted her with a liquid substance before security grabbed him and took him to the ground.
Here is the reality that people like this ugly man don't understand. We are Minnesota strong.
The suspect, 55-year-old Anthony James Kazmierzak, was arrested on suspicion of assault and is being held without bail at Hennepin County Jail. The president telling a reporter that Omar is a fraud and probably had herself sprayed. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
Do you blame President Trump for this attack on Representative Omar?
Well, certainly. It's the tone. The president constantly attacks Representative Omar, attacks her citizenship, attacks the very decency of it, and we've asked him time and time again to stop it.
Federal immigration operations continue here in Minnesota as new video has surfaced that appears to show Alex Preddy during an encounter with federal agents recorded 11 days before he was fatally shot. In the video, the man is seen yelling at agents as they get into their vehicles. When they drive off, he kicks a taillight. An agent jumps out, grabs him, and slams him to the ground. Moments later, the agents retreat, and the man walks away. As immigration operations continue, the threat of deportation and wrongful detention of U.S. citizens has deeply impacted communities here.
Families are scared. They're not coming out of their houses. They're just hunkering down, trying to weather this out.
Jason Kuhlman is the principal at Valley View Elementary School, where 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos is a student. Liam was returning from school with his father when they were detained by federal agents last week.
Joaquin Castro just put out this picture, and that's Liam at the Dilley Center, detention center in Texas. You hadn't seen that? Sorry.
No. We knew he wasn't feeling well. We got word of that, that he was sick. That scares me.
It is so hard to watch that, but for the first time since that attack, Representative Omar has addressed the press just now. One of the things she did is condemn ICE, call for the impeachment of Kristi Noem, but also talk about how fearful communities are here, Tony. Fearful to go to the market, to work, to school. Tony.
All right, Matt, thank you very much. As members of Congress were visiting that 5-year-old and his father inside the detention center, protesters calling for their release rallied outside, and it got physical at one point as Texas state troopers deployed tear gas and tried to push the crowd back. Confrontations like that are an unfortunate hallmark of the moment we're living through. There's been a huge increase in death threats against ICE officers, according to new numbers released this week by the federal government. And it's all part of a growing wave of political violence in America, including threats against lawmakers like Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Here's Justice correspondent Scott McFarland.
Police tell CBS News Congresswoman Ilhan Omar has recently been the victim of a particularly large number of threats. President Trump has fixated on her, blasting her regularly, including in these remarks in Iowa just hours before last night's assault.
They have to show that they can love our country. They have to be proud. Not like Ilhan Omar.
Trump later claimed, without evidence, that Omar staged it, the conspiracy theory Trump supporters have since latched onto. Michael Sullivan is U.S. Capitol Police Chief.
We are confident this actually was a criminal act because there's a lot of conspiracy theories about this being staged.
I've received no information that indicates that.
The assault on Omar comes amid a growing wave of threats against members of Congress.
I don't care who does the attacking or the disrupting. That's wrong, and it's also illegal.
The U.S. Capitol Police launched nearly 15,000 threat investigations last year, 5,000 more than the year before, including just days ago when Florida Democrat Maxwell Frost says he was punched in the face while at an event in Utah. And former Georgia Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, the subject of scorn from Trump, says she received a death threat on the day she resigned.
To what do you attribute that sharp an increase?
Tempo and pace of events that evoke strong emotion. I don't know that I've seen anything like it in my 30 years in law enforcement.
And Scott, I understand you're following some additional breaking news tonight out of Georgia. The FBI searching the Fulton County election office. What do we know about that?
Yeah, local officials in Atlanta say the search is related to the 2020 election results. The county clerk's office has possession of the 2020 ballots, and that's where the FBI agents were seen. Tony, President Trump continues to make baseless claims about winning Georgia in 2020.
All right, thank you very much. The Federal Reserve today held interest rates steady despite continuing pressure from President Trump to cut them. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said the economy is on, quote, firm footing. Inflation is still somewhat elevated, he acknowledged, but the economy, he said, had once again, quote, surprised us with its strength. President Trump, meanwhile, is celebrating what he calls one of the most transformative policies of all time, a new so-called Trump account for kids, with the U.S. government chipping in the first $1,000. What you need to know now from Kelly O'Grady.
Today, President Trump touted his new Trump accounts, designed to grow a nest egg for young Americans.
We're going to give every newborn American child a financial stake in the future.
When filing taxes, parents with an American child under 18 can opt in to opening a Trump account, a tax-deferred investment account. We sat down with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
What, for families viewing, is your one-sentence pitch on the Trump accounts?
Well, for the families who have children between January 1st, 2025 and December 31, 2028, you've got $1,000 coming from the government that's going to be invested into an index fund.
Michael and Susan Dell and other philanthropists have also pledged donations that they can specify for certain groups. While parents, employers, and nonprofits can make contributions in any Trump account up to $5,000 annually. If the government's initial $1,000 deposit is left alone, it could grow to $5,800 in 18 years. If you contribute the maximum each year, it could grow to over $300,000.
How are you going to prevent the wealth gap from widening with this program?
Well, I think that is a terrible criticism. It shows how out of touch anyone who says that is. Because if they say only $5,000, these are families, huge number of families in America wouldn't have $500 to meet a medical emergency.
Secretary Bessent hopes these accounts will improve financial literacy.
38% of the households who don't have stocks, Wall Street is this abstract notion. All of a sudden, they have participated for 18 years that in the financial markets. So it's a constant financial education.
Tony, the pushback from critics is that without significant investment, the biggest benefits are still out of reach for most. By the way, major companies like Visa, Chase, Bank of America have all signed on to contribute. Tony?
All right, Kelly, thank you very much. President Trump confirmed today that a large fleet of U.S. warships is heading to Iran. He's using the threat of force to get Iran's leaders to negotiate over nuclear ambitions. And tonight, we have a firsthand account of Iran's violent crackdown on its own people. Remy Inocencio spoke with a protester who requested that we conceal his identity for fear of retribution.
Me alive and my brother and sister died. I am lucky.
His face covered in fear, this man inside Iran described to us a massacre in the central city of Yazd, part of the bloodiest crackdown in the Islamic Republic in its nearly 50 years. To extinguish protests raging across the country earlier this month.
I think more than 1,000 people that night killed.
He described how government forces sandwiched protesters in, firing on them from the front and back. He felt he survived only because he was in the middle of the crowd.
I'm here because if I am very back, I was done.
They would kill you. They would shoot you.
Yes. I think that is a plan for them.
Desperation for regime change of any kind has hit a new high.
What do you want? What do you want?
I can say all people that night come out and stay Pahlavi. Just want Pahlavi, okay?
Reza Pahlavi is the exiled son of Iran's last Shah. He publicly called for Iranians to rise up.
Do you want the U.S. government to help? Do you want President Trump to help?
Yes, I please President Trump, help us and help the world.
A plea he hopes will be answered soon. Ramy Inocencio, CBS News.
Still ahead on the CBS Evening News, new details on the nation's largest measles outbreak in decades. The measles outbreak in South Carolina is now the largest this country has seen since the disease was declared eliminated 26 years ago. A large majority of the cases are among people who are not vaccinated. For more, here's Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. John LaPook.
The nearly 800 confirmed cases has made South Carolina the latest epicenter for measles.
We did not anticipate that South Carolina case counts in a matter of only 16 weeks would surpass the total number of cases reached in Texas over the course of 7 months.
Last year, an outbreak in West Texas infected more than 700 people and killed 2 children. 14 states are already reporting cases of measles, compared to only 5 this time last year.
Without better vaccination coverage, we can anticipate that we'll continue to see spread, potentially to other areas of the state.
Nationally, the vaccination rate has dropped below the 95% needed to protect communities from infection. Measles is a highly contagious respiratory disease that can lead to serious illness and even death. But it's highly preventable with a vaccine.
And Dr. LaPook is here with us. So, Doctor, this is a classic case of the personal safety and public safety that comes with vaccination and the personal freedom that comes with people wanting to opt out. For the opting out people, what do you say to convince them?
I do understand the instinct of some parents to say, look, if I want to roll the dice for my child, that's my decision. If they go ahead and get measles, they get measles. But they're not just rolling the dice for their own kid. They're rolling the dice for millions of infants and babies who are too young to get the first vaccine, which is usually at 12 months for measles. They're rolling the dice for more than 20 million estimated people who are immunocompromised, who have conditions like cancer or they're on chemotherapy. They can get the vaccine, but it may not have an adequate immune response. So yeah, you're making the decision not just for your own child, for your own family, but really for the whole community.
All right, Dr. LaPook, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Up next, new music from the boss, Bruce Springsteen, dedicated to the people of Minneapolis. You'll hear it.
Through the winter's ice and
More than 30 years after Bruce Springsteen won an Oscar for his song Streets of Philadelphia, he has written a version called Streets of Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, I hear your voice.
Springsteen says it's dedicated to, quote, the people of Minneapolis, our innocent immigrant neighbors, and in memory of Alex Preddy and Renee Good. Some layoff news. Amazon announced a new round of layoffs today, just a few months after cutting 14,000 workers. We learned today another 16,000 corporate jobs are now on the chopping block. While the company is leaning into artificial intelligence, Amazon has said its recent cuts were not necessarily because of AI or automation. Up next, he has one Super Bowl ring for every finger, thumbs excluded, but still, that wasn't enough to get him into the Hall of Fame. Somebody explain it to me.
This portion of the CBS Evening News is sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Only pay for what you need.
Finally tonight, only in America, a Hall of Fame snub so big it calls into question what a Hall of Fame is even for. A question that is everywhere today because former Patriots coach Bill Belichick, who love him or hate him, has won more Super Bowls than any head coach in NFL history, was for some reason rejected as a Hall of Famer in his first year. His former quarterback, Tom Brady, says he can't understand it. Current NFL star Patrick Mahomes calls it insane. NBA star LeBron James calls it egregious, quite frankly, disrespectful. Now, the selection committee is a group of 50 people, mostly media, and Belichick famously doesn't like the media much, something I am well aware of, after he showed up to our interview last year in a ripped sweatshirt and declined basic questions. But that's not a reason to exclude him, and neither is anything else. So I go back to the question, what is the Hall of Fame? As my colleague J.J. Watt of CBS Sports put it, This must be some sort of a knockoff. It cannot be the real thing, not without Coach Belichick, who I called today for comment, and he sent me straight to voicemail. That's another day in America. For all of us at CBS News, I'm Tony DeCopel. Good night. True story.